Yo, what's up? It's your boy E.T. Welcome to another edition of Mass Impact, the educational podcast. Now, look, the reason why I started this, I truly believe that education is the way to close the gap, the wealth gap, the digital divide gap, the opportunity gap. Look, the American dream gap. Can I be honest? Everybody's not experiencing the American dream in the way it's supposed to be experienced. So the reason why we started the Mass Impact, the educational podcast, is to close that gap. Now look, mass is simple. It means motivate, actionable steps, which means what? We're going to give you strategies every week. So we're not just going to motivate you and inspire you, which is important, but we're going to give you actionable steps. And look, it's a support system, y'all. Thus Mass. It's your boy E.T. Now you know. Let's go.
Yo, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy E.T. Hey, y'all can see we're actually in studio, well, old studio. We don't use this no more, but this is where all the podcasts used to go down. I'm super excited, man. We had a phenomenal week, man. I know y'all was following us on Instagram. In fact, I had a couple of y'all DM me, and some people text me like, I see you in the schools. You're looking Nobel bound. I was like, yeah, no doubt. So, as always, we're here to do just a couple things. One, motivate you and inspire you. And what a joy it was to physically be motivating kids this week. Hopefully teach. Some teachers came up to me. It's like, I know that was for the students, but I got a lot out of it. Beyond motivation and inspiration, like I really think we gave them through the playbook some action steps. It's like, hey, you got to do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like, it just don't happen. You got to be intentional and deliberate. And then I think what we really did by having some of the students there, we supported them. Like, the kids felt support. I had one kid come to me, man, they need us, y'all. I had one kid come to me and go, I literally feel like life is against me. Like, I'm cursed, And I was like, man, why you say that? He was a freshman. He was like, my sister died 2 years ago. My father died from COVID. My grandfather died. And I just feel like because I'm Black, I can't get a job, And I was like, okay. I said, hey, I see why you feel that way. I was like, I'm not about to sit here and try to motivate you out of feel. I know why you feel like that, but I'm here to support you. And I gave him Jada's number, my number. And so we're going to do what we can, to support. So again, as always, motivation, action items, mass impact, support system, y'all. So I don't have to ask Katie this week what we're talking about because we were all together. So I know exactly what we're talking about. So this is going to be a very special episode because we were a group of very special kids. But I'll let Train start us off because he actually went to the school district that we were in this week, and one of the schools, of course, in the school district. So you can tell them where we were and, give us a little background on the elbow, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, so we're in Lansing School District. I'm a product of the Lansing School District. Last year, we were in one high school in the Lansing School District, and we were fortunate enough to have the school district sign all their high schools to get them on board. So instead of just one high school in the district, we're at all three in the district. And the thing that I really loved about this week is, obviously, everybody knows ET is motivational king or whatever you want to call him, but we realized that it wasn't going to be successful with just us, right? So when he talks about the teachers, we had the teachers in the building, obviously the students, counselors, everybody came to the large assemblies. And then also we do a parent night that we have at one of the schools in the evening. We invite all the parents out, we feed them, and we kind of tell them exactly what we're doing with their children, right? So they know, hey, you are a big part of this too. It can't just be us coming in talking to your students. We understand that they spend most of their time with you. Mm-hmm. So we took a whole community approach. We really challenged the parents to step up to the plate. We have a playbook, as we call it. I wish we had one in front of me. We have a playbook for the students. It's called the Playbook Program, but it really is a real life playbook that we give to the kids that they have to use every day. And then we have a parent playbook. So we really challenge the parents, when your children come home from school every day, y'all need to sit down together, take 5-10 minutes a day. You fill out your playbook for parents, they fill out their playbook for students. And if everybody can handle their business like that, I think we'll start, I guess that trajectory, to where we ultimately want this program to land. So, super excited. Obviously, as I said, I'm Lansing School District kid. So being back in the Lansing School District is special for me. And Katie, she's she wasn't far away from the Lansing School District, so
She wasn't
I,
far
I
away.
know it was cool for her too,
Yeah.
being at least close to home.
Definitely.
Working with these students. So
I happen to get on the road. So, Katie, can you just tell us quickly, because Trent said something deep. We were only in 1 last year. We were in 3 this year. And then we probably like in 9 altogether in the country. What did you guys do differently? And I just say y'all because, I know my role. I know my lane. You know what I'm saying? When I come when it's time to speak, and, come to the parent thing, whatever. But what do you think you guys did to convince these 9 schools that they needed, the program that we provide?
Yeah, I think you say it often that we just go in and show the value of it first. And that's what we did last year. So we got into the schools last year. We did some pilot groups and we did just our small groups. So we call it our Playbook groups, about 50 students, and did a deep dive with them and their parents we brought in last year as well. I think the program really speaks for itself. We did data analysis last year. So we were able to show, over like 78% of our students had growth in their GPA. I think there was like 79% of them had decrease in discipline referrals. Their attendance went up. The parents were more involved. So it really spoke for itself. The districts were able to say like, hey, we want to get this to be a little more widespread. And it was really exciting, I think, this year, because last year we were with that small group, which was so powerful. But I remember that day saying, this would be so good for the whole school. And there were kids kind of sneaking in the back and trying to listen in. And so being able to get that impact into the entire buildings that we were in this year, I thought was really, really special. So
absolutely love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Y'all hear that evidence.
Yeah.
Right? Evidence. We had proven evidence that this thing works. Let's talk about the highlights for all of us. Several, of course, but I think for me, one of the biggest highlights, was having my mom come speak to the parents, and I've been working with my mom, for a while. And, one of the things that, I had to explain to my mom is, they don't necessarily relate to the college graduate that worked at Ford Motor Company for 40 years. 30 plus years, they relate to the 17-year-old, who was pregnant and, was a single mom for years, homeless, at a particular time, when we were together. That's who they relate to. And so for my mom, I know, it probably was a little challenging over the years to really embrace that person. Of course, she wants to embrace the person she's become. But I'm like, yo, Mom, they need to know that you weren't always there and you were a single parent and you did get pregnant your senior year in high school. They need to. And so for my mom to embrace that from her child, because a lot of times parents, stay in parent role. They don't always listen to their kids. And so my mom listened to me, made the adjustment, and her message was so authentic, and it was so fluid,
It was good.
And I could just tell that, when I was speaking to the parents, of course they listened, but I could tell maybe, there's a couple parents that was a little bit more like, I'm aggressive. So they might, but when my mom spoke, the way my mom brought it, I could just see people leaning in and really like, oh, okay, went through that. Okay, I went through that. And you did this for your kids. You're challenging me to do that. So I thought she did a phenomenal job. And I was like, yo, Mom, if you could do that, we could go to these schools and really get the parents like really locked in a little bit more, because I know they probably might be my age. I don't think they're my mother's age, but just having, a mother talk, to them from that perspective, I just saw how, it moved them. So parents, if you're listening to this and we're coming to your district, please make sure you come out, call your friends who are kids are also in the district, tell them to come out. But, it was for free and for food. I thought it was a pretty special.
Good food too. We feed them well.
Yeah, no doubt. So for you guys, what were some of the highlights?
Yeah, for me, I love, of course, talking to the kids about reading and college and planning for their educational futures. So I think that was your idea, and Train helped execute it. But the college panel was, I think, a big highlight this year. So we hadn't done that in the past. We bring in, of course, our team of people that just share all kinds of knowledge with students. But this year at lunch, we always feed the kids. We brought in some right now college students to share their knowledge with them and let the students, our high school students, ask them questions. And they asked questions from, what is dorm life like to how do you handle overwhelm and stress, and what was the application process like, and what if I feel like I can't afford college, and how did you fill out the FAFSA, and all kinds. And I always teach kids about how to fill out the FAFSA, but it's just different when they get to hear it from a college student that says, I just did it with my family last year. So
on Halloween.
Yeah.
Not on Halloween, she said.
Yeah. 11:59 it was due.
So it's powerful. I think that was really, really cool to see those connections. And I think that there were kids in the room this week that believed that college was their path, maybe for the first time, because they got to see what that was like for those other students and say that could be me next year or the year after.
Yeah, I would say for me, the highlight was the thing I really love about this program is there's so many different type of kids we have in the program.
Absolutely.
So you think about a program like this, and people always ask, well, how do you qualify and all this stuff, and thinking it's just the cream of the crop of students. But we really have a mixture of, high achieving students, some that are in the middle, and we have some that are struggling right now. So the thing that we tell them when they come in is where you're at right now, or I should say what you've been in the past, it doesn't matter right now. We're wiping the slate clean with the Playbook program. And from this day forward, what you do matters to us, right? So the way that they qualify for these, we call them youth exposure program. The way you qualify for these trips, obviously we took some kids to the Super Bowl last year. You probably have heard. We're taking some kids out of the country this year. So the way they qualify for these things are some of the things Katie mentioned last year with attendance, no discipline referrals, your grades, you have to go up or at least stay where they're at and not go down. So when I say improve, that means if you're at 2.0 and you went to a 2.4, we're considering that improvement, right? So we're not just taking 3.5, 4.0 kids. We're just saying, hey, wherever you're at, start doing better. So I think that when those kids come in there, a lot of times they have a notion that, oh, the teachers think I'm dumb or I'm the bad kid or whatever it may be. And we're just telling them, hey, we're wiping the slate clean. So anything that happened before doesn't matter starting from this day forward. And we give them that opportunity to say, hey, this is it now. I can make that change. And I could possibly go on one of these life-changing trips and something that they may have not even thought was a possibility for them before.
Absolutely.
But we're welcoming them in, understanding where they're at. And then when E says certain things to them, if they do have this idea that I am the dumb kid or the bad kid or whatever, and then E comes in talking about how he ate out of garbage cans, it humbles himself down to that level where he's saying, look, I was no better than you, and now look at where I'm at. So it's that connection piece that E has with them to say, hey, it doesn't matter where you're at, it matters where we're going. So I love that we're getting every type of kid in there and giving every type of kid an opportunity. So that's the highlight for me.
Yeah, so we did highlights first, and I want to do hopeful next, and I think one of the things that I heard that really made me hopeful while we were, and of course this isn't our first rodeo. Like we were in Chicago not too long ago. We're headed to Maryland soon. But for me, it was a few teachers that came to me afterwards and says like, yo, they were engaged. Like, yo, even some of the, because we normally do high school. One school, we did 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever. And I told the teacher, like, yo, they 8th grade and 7th graders, like, that's in middle school is when, they're off the chain.
Different kind of energy.
Yeah. But when I spoke, like that energy shifted, what I'm saying? And they were, paying attention. As teachers, just like, yo, I know some of my students that don't pay attention. Like, wow, they paid attention. They were engaged. And some of the schools, because they were more mature, 10th, 11th, 12th, they were like, they were engaged the whole time. And for me, I was hopeful because it showed me that it's really not that they don't want it. They do. You just got to be a professional. I just think like maybe back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago when, in teaching, you didn't have to do anything but teach, right? And again, I wish it was like that now, but it's not. Now it's not that they don't want to be engaged. You just have to be engaging. You just got to be engaged. Like you got to figure it out. You got to figure out how to talk to them, what to say, how to say it. And to Train's point, it's just some things that I said. I'm being real, y'all. Like I could easily put up on the screen me with Michael B. Jordan. Like I could put me up with Dion. Like I could put me up with Cam Newton. Like they're figures, rappers, and some of these influencers. I can put pictures up, but they don't need pictures. Like there is a way to get to them. There is a way to engage with them if you make it of interest to them. And so I was just hopeful that we left the school and kids was running up to me. Can we take pics? Can I give you my number? Jada connected with some kid and she had some like intern, like this big intern that they go to and whatever. And she's like, yo, can you be my mom for the day? You know, like I don't, my parents don't speak the language. They're not educated and whatever. And so can you go? And Jada was like, yeah. And I heard Jada talking to her mom last night, like prepping, getting ready. And Didi's like, okay, don't say this, don't do that. Okay, do this, and I was just like, wow, like I was hopeful. Like it's not that they don't want it, but when they don't feel the love, when they don't feel the connection, when they don't feel like there's an interest, they're not us. Like we were disciplined. You know what I'm saying? Like you knew you was gonna get in trouble when you come home if you didn't do certain things, or you just were in an environment where you love your parents enough to go to school and do what you were told. It's just different now. A lot of kids are being raised by kids, or they don't have their guardians in their home. So they're really raising themselves. And so to really see that, hey, they especially when we did the groups, like they were locked in. Even when it wasn't the group, the questions they were asking, I was like, yo, those some dope questions. One girl was like, do you drink or smoke? And she wasn't even on like recreational. She was like, yo, it sounds like you doing a lot of stuff. Like
you're stressed.
You stressed.
I think you had said you didn't. And then her question was, how do you get through stress without those things?
Yeah.
And she said, I'm not joking. Like, I really want to know. Like,
I was like, unbelievable.
That's a good question.
So a high school kid asking, how do you deal with stress? How do you cope? And I was like, yo, that's dope. Because maybe from where she comes from, people cope by smoking and drinking, and don't make them bad people. That's just their coping mechanism. And she was like, yo, you don't do that? So what do you do? You're doing a lot. And so I was able to share with her. So my point of hopeful was, it's not that they don't want to learn. Like they're in school, they're there. It's just, man, the talent level. This is not a challenge. It's like when I was watching basketball with the short shorts, it was a different basketball. They were scoring. It was like 79 to 82 was the final. They're the NBA final, 79-82. It's a different game now. They putting up 112, 120 points in the NBA. Why? The talent level. I'm not saying they're better players necessarily, but the ability to shoot and score is at a higher level, than it's ever been before. So I would just say to my teachers out there, don't be quick to go, they don't want it. I would go more, can we be a little bit more talented, as an instructor, more creative, more innovative, and you might find a solution in that as opposed to blaming the student. So for you guys, was there any hopeful moments when you left, versus some of those horror stories we hear before we come and why they want us to come?
Yeah, one school in particular, I think when you walked the halls, I think I told you, like, just quickly after we got there, you can see how much the staff cares about the kids. And that is the part that I think gives me so much hope for, not just, I want the kids to be good at when we leave the building and have people that are in the building taking care of them always. So, of course, there's great staff everywhere, but one place in particular, you could tell right away that there were security guards and people walking in the halls and teachers and counselors and administrators that really care about the students. And so that definitely gives me hope. And it also inspires me that I'm hoping that we're going to spend more time with staff too, because we want the staff to feel our support and to be able to have the longevity of these kids being successful. So as we continue on and get into the school buildings, we want to spend some more time with the teachers and the counselors and the admin so that you're feeling supported too, to continue to support the kids.
Yeah, I'll just say, and we've been to a lot of schools now, right, and a lot of different programs, whatever. But leadership and accountability truly matter. You can see it does roll downhill. So the schools that have, to Katie's point, that really strong leadership, holding kids accountable, you can see it. I mean, just even in the hallways, you don't hear, cussing up and down the hallways and things like that. And you can tell by how the administrators interact, by how they, are engaged with students. And I mean, we're just being real. We were at a school and, kids were around us cussing, and one thing I just know, even from just being in youth development for so long, um, you you can be their friends, but it's a slippery slope, right? There's a fence you have to ride that, if you just broing them the whole time, they're gonna treat you like that. They're gonna treat you like a friend where they feel like they can come around me and curse. And that was a conversation I had with them yesterday. Like, you don't need to be cussing around adults. That, and although it may seem like who's this guy, old guy telling me, deep down somewhere in them, they like that. Right. They're like, okay, this guy cares about me. There's an accountability piece there. And they may even, act like they, don't rock with me for that moment in time. And I started off the session like that. Hey, before we get started, all that cussing and N-bombs in here, I'm a grown adult. Y'all are kids still. And that's not the way you speak around adults, right? So, and by the end of it though, again, by the end of our whole session, we all had groups around us talking, vibing, right? So that's why I say you can still be cool with them, have a great relationship, but there has to be some level of accountability. I'm just even thinking of my dad when he had his mentee for the longest, and he would discipline him, and his mentee would call me like he was mad about it, but he really was telling me, almost bragging, like, hey, I got in trouble. Would you believe Pops made me go and roll down the hill up at Waverly Hills? He made me do 5 rolls down the hill, like saying it like, oh, I'm pissed off, but he's really like, look, somebody care about me.
And I did the 5 rolls.
And I did them. Yeah, and I was ready and willing to do them. So when I say that accountability matters, all that means really is when you're keeping somebody accountable is you care about them, right? So if nobody tells you, hey, you can't, if you just walk right by a teacher and you just hurling cuss bombs everywhere and she just walks by and you're like, she don't really care.
Right.
But when that teacher stops and pulls you over and says, look, young man, that's not acceptable in this building. I expect more from you. Learn how to use your vocabulary. You got more words than just cuss words. And they're like, man, okay, at least took the time to say something to me. So accountability matters, leadership matters, and you can tell from school to school kind of what's going on within that building. So yeah.
Yeah, the kids rise to the level of our expectations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess, guys, then for the last one for me is like, how then do we improve on our work? And that's what I was thinking about. One of the cool things is when you go with a team like we did, this week, versus when I go by myself, I actually have time to highlight what's working and what I feel like we can improve on. Whereas when I'm by myself, I'm so engaged that I don't really get an opportunity to do the reflection piece. So as I was, you started, I would go, Katie, kids, the college students, etc. It really gave me an opportunity to go, okay, E, how do we take this to the next level? And one of the things that I realized is like, even though I understand technology and I understand social media and how it works, culturally, I've been wired for the in-person. My whole career, I was physically in the school. Like, we use technology, but not to the extent that they use technology now. So all my degrees. I mean, you talk about, Oakwood, you're talking about the 90s. Michigan State, you're talking about, the early 2000s. And so technology existed, but not to the extent that it does now. I mean, you look at technology a year later from today, and it's going to be something totally different. So it's funny. Moni sent me a pic. She was like, yo, you remember when, the church service was getting like 40,000 hits, views a week? And I was like, absolutely. We're probably like at 5,000 or a little bit more now. And I told her, it was like, oh, that was before Facebook was doing ads. Like, you got to pay to get those numbers now.
Right.
Like, they're not giving them out. Like, that was a time when they didn't have a lot of content. So they're taking content and spreading it. Now they're like, oh, no. If you like that, you're going to have to pay to get that. Or you're going to have to pay. So I was like, technology is really a forerunner now. And traditional instruction is ancient. Because like we said, we have to keep telling kids, put your foot on. Bro, I never had to tell people put their phone down when I was
Mhm.
coming up.
Right.
Like, it was no such thing. Or we're telling them to do something in the school and they don't want to do it, but they'll do it on TikTok. So it's like, for them, it's a shift. We might be thinking, why wouldn't you want to come on stage? But the new stage is TikTok.
Right.
The new way to express yourself is Instagram. You know, that's just the way to do it. So I was like, yo, we have to switch it and go, that program that we do is not the highlight. That program is secondary. The digital space has to become primary. So literally, I'm not playing, guys. I don't know if y'all watch, but I brought the roadcaster with me.
Yeah.
Got on the roadcaster, did my message. Kia from our team is already chopping up the 30 minutes into like 5-minute segments that they can handle. A worksheet to go with it, right? Me and Carl came this morning and did a video, boy, where I break down the worksheet for the application. And it's like, yo, we're going to create an app. And for now, we'll send it to them, but we're going to create an app where they can, and then there's some gamifying that we have that when Katie does the curriculum for the book, the vocabulary, they have to prove that they learn it. So now gamify, as they get points, it's like, okay, now we can bless you. So just adding their element into it. And I was sitting there like, yo, I love doing what I do. Like, they respond to it. But I was like, yo, we can't be here. You know, in the winter, I'll be in Cali. So I'm like, yo, I'm not going to be able to be here as much. I was like, yo, we could still be here. You know, group text, or we can hit them every day with group text, because that's what they're accustomed to and that's what they love. You know, so for me, that was a highlight. Like, yo, we're killing the game. We're seeing results. But man, imagine we can actually touch these kids regularly, if not even daily, through social media. I can just put up a quick, hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy ET. Man, I love y'all. Do good in school today. Think about the decisions you made. 30 seconds, and they got it. Whereas physically going to their schools, we're going to do that once or whatever, that we can do that. So I walked away with watching you guys and watching them interact. And, just, one of the things that when you get advanced degrees, it's like observation. I never really knew why they made us do that. But I'm sitting seriously, while y'all was doing your thing in costume, I was just observing and taking mental notes and going, I see how we can touch these kids without having to touch these kids. So for me, that was the how do you take the highlights of what you guys did and even elevate it a little bit more. So I don't know for you guys, if there were anything you guys saw that you were like, yeah, this is good, but we could take it to another level by doing, this simple step.
Yeah, and be able to reach more kids,
Absolutely.
really, which is the
Yeah,
goal.
that's
So
very
two
important,
quick things with the Playbook program so you mentioned the 9 schools that we're in this year. We're doing these big kickoffs in person, but then we are planning to meet with them via Zoom once a month for the remainder of the school year. So we will have those statistics I shared earlier with the kids that had great success last year. They didn't have those regular touch points. So think about with that kind of success, with only us, being there a couple times, what those numbers will look like this year when we are meeting with them regularly once a month. So what you're sharing is like even on top of that, which would be incredible, but they are planning, and we're doing that during school hours. The school's arranging, so we're going to make sure kids are there and locked in, and we're going to be meeting with them on a regular basis. And we're doing a worksheet with that time too, where they're going to be listening to some really great content and interacting with us and taking notes. And part of that, of course, is them participating there to earn the opportunity to be a part of the youth exposure program and the trips as well. But those touch points are going to be really exciting. Those are happening this year. And then the bigger goal I think is going to be exciting is when we can get the playbooks in the hands of more students like across the country, even if they don't have the ability to bring us into their school.
Yep, that's good.
So those are going to be, we're
Yeah.
going to get those out so that districts, if they're interested, can purchase planners for their school, entire school body or specific groups, or maybe coaches want to purchase them for their teams to help them to be, keeping track and being accountable to themselves. So that I think is a really powerful tool that we'll be able to get into more hands of students for sure.
Yeah, I think a great thing and we've had the conversation before, but one thing where we are working towards is, so we have a primary contact that we'll work with at each school, that kind of heads up, the school side of things as far as communicating with the students, parents, etc. I eventually would love if every one of those people were students, right? So there's a leader in each school. And when we have these students who are known by their peers as somebody that they, look up to, even for the younger classmen looking up to the upperclassmen, those are the ones who are reaching out, making sure, hey, we have our
Love
session
that.
today at 10 o'clock, and we've even working towards that. We have a young man who just graduated high school, who's doing some amazing things, who's going to be going to visit some of these schools with us too. Just on one of our previous visits, he was able to join, and we saw the feedback that the kids have for him. We realized we've been out of high school a couple years.
Just a little while.
Just a couple
And
years.
I've been out longer than that.
Yeah, right.
Because I dropped out, so I was out long. Before that, I left early. No doubt.
Absolutely. Well, you did the 4 and 12, so you got it back a little.
I got
bit.
it back. Okay, I got some of it back. Yeah,
You got some
I
of it
lost
back.
a couple brain cells when I dropped out, but that college thing got me back a little bit.
Yeah. So having that leadership of somebody that's not that much older than them, that is really crushing it, is even more of a I guess just drilling that point home. Like, hey, you can do X, Y, and Z. And I'm not telling you from what used to happen back in the year 2000. I'm talking about I just did this in 2020. So I think that having that youth leadership, maybe even creating a board here of our youth leaders from the different schools we go to, where even if we're in DC, they're communicating, our youth leadership is communicating with the youth leadership of the students in Lansing, right? So they all are on the same page, just so we have that, uniformity across the board from
I
everywhere
see
we
a
go.
conference, bringing all those
what?
I
kids
have
together.
thought of that too,
Yeah.
and the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be fire in the summer. They're bringing all those staff members here and training them up. That would be phenomenal.
Yep.
Oh man, y'all. Hey, that's it. Of course, there's more. We could go on and on. It was just, man, it was not only a phenomenal experience, it was a phenomenal academic experience for me. Like what I learned just watching it live. Of course, we planned, we've been planning all year, but it's something about, the practical work that's different than the planning. And it's something about observing the work and working on the work, right? And I just want to encourage y'all to do that. Sometimes we get so caught up on work that we don't work on our work. And when we work on our work, we make our work better. I was talking to Carl even today, and I was just encouraging Carl. I was like, yo, you're a very hard worker. I said, but what happens sometimes when you're a hard worker? I said, you gotta look at it as swimming. When you swim, I don't care how good you are as a swimmer. At some point, you have a stroke to breathing ratio, right? It is what it is. Like some of us are strong enough as swimmers to, 10, rotation, and then boom, breathe. Some of us can go the length of the pool, without breathing. But once we get out, we have to breathe. And so as an educator, practice, observe, like breathe, like look at your work, right? Because we can always improve our work. We can always take what we're doing and do it better. So with that being said, man, we love y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, as you always do.